to the third part of the show. And right now we're going to talk about campaign paraphernalia. And we have the Election Watch Group, the legal network for truthful elections, to teach us about the top election offenses, lalo-lalo na po ngayon, campaign period. So, to my right is Chelsea Ballesteros. Welcome, Chelsea, to the show. Sean Galvez, hello, also from Lente, and Pau Vasquez.
Hi,
welcome to the show. Okay, all of you are law students, volunteers of Lente. Yes. And so, I'd like to ask you, ngayon, campaign period na. And actually, the camera crew gave me this cup, 3 cups, yeah. Okay, it's by a popular convenience store. And they're conducting a survey of senatorial candidates. Okay, is this an election violation, or is this regulated by our laws? What do you think?
Actually, there's no prohibition about that because 7-Eleven is a private corporation, and then there's really no prohibition on that. But
so private companies can conduct surveys.
Yes, but we have to follow certain, for example, certain things that should be included in that survey. First, there should be like who conducted it. There's a saying that it's from 7-Eleven. And then, who commissioned that survey? Is there a certain group, candidate, political party?
But yung mga surveys in the news, for example, Pulse Asia, SWS, yes, do those have do they meet the requirements set by the COMELEC?
That's what we have to look at too. So we have to see if there's specification in that survey. If it includes who commissioned it, who conducted it, and the marginal error of the specific questions, and then the time period when it was conducted. So we have to look at those things. And if those are not
met, so may violation.
Yes.
There's a violation. Okay, so let's go straight into campaign paraphernalia. Yes. So now it's the automated elections. Yes. Ano yung mga usual election offenses, Chelsea?
Now that we have an automated elections, we could observe that there's no more premature campaigning. Because previously, when we have the manual elections, there are certain violators who would campaign earlier than usual. Like once they file their COCs, they'll start campaigning, and even before campaign period.
That is prohibited.
Yes, before.
Okay.
So now that we have automated elections, we could observe that the filing of COC ended around October 31. And then the start of campaign period was in fact Feb 12 and March 29 for the local. So there's a gap, there's a period wherein
from filing of candidacy
from
to
the
start of the campaign period.
And then if we could observe, there are certain candidates who
already started campaigning.
Yes, already started campaigning. But since we have the Peñera versus COMELEC rulings, which said that there's no more premature campaigning, precisely because a candidate can only be considered a candidate once the election campaign started. So
okay, so no more violation.
No more violation for premature campaign. So, but now there's a movement to go back to the previous way of having it closer together, and that to put premature campaigning as already a violation of the law. So there's certain movement for electoral reform.
So if a candidate starts putting posters up after filing his or her certificate of candidacy, no violations under the law.
Yes.
For now.
Yes.
Okay. So useless yung campaign period, di ba? Well, that's just my opinion. But it's still valid. So bakit may campaign period pa if you can already start campaigning?
Well, that's the problem. There's a gap now between what's the intention of the law to have it an equal playing field with candidates. But since that's the Supreme Court ruling, we have to abide by it.
All right. Well, that's true too, no? So Peñera versus COMELEC, there's a move now to
have it return.
To return to the old ruling before Peñera. So how are we going? Is COMELEC doing anything about it, or are we going to wait for another landmark case to reach the Supreme Court?
Maybe we have to wait now. We have to lobby with our representatives to have a certain law saying that we have to go back. So
okay. So we need a test case before we can reverse the ruling in Peñera versus COMELEC.
Or we can have maybe a new law or a new regulation saying that we have to go back. But for now, we have to comply with it.
So no premature campaigning, that's the rule.
Yes.
Okay. So what about advertisements? Mainit na mainit yan ngayon. Pau Vasquez, what are the common violations for election
offenses? We will find the rules on the TV advertisements and radio advertisements on the Fair Elections Act. It is said that all registered parties and bona fide candidates shall have equal media time and space. Right. And they shall be entitled to not more than 120 minutes worth of TV advertisements and not more than 180 minutes worth of radio advertisements. So
that's 2 hours for TV and then 3 hours for
Yes,
radio.
that's for national candidates. And for the local candidates, they are entitled to not more than 60 minutes of TV advertisements and 90 minutes worth of radio advertisements. So, however, in the past, the COMELEC interpreted the law in various ways. In 2001, it was interpreted that 120 minutes shall be for the duration of the campaign. So from the start of the campaign period up to the end, the candidate shall be entitled to only 120 minutes, for example, of TV advertisements.
Why is there another interpretation?
Yes, in 2004 elections, 2007 elections, and the 2010 elections, it was interpreted such that each candidate shall have 120 minutes of TV advertisements per station.
Per station.
Yes.
Okay.
However, in this 2013 elections, it was reverted to the old interpretation, where the COMELEC imposed a 120 aggregate total of worth of advertisements.
Okay.
So for us, this is the better interpretation of the law, because going back to the title of the law itself, it's a Fair Elections Act. The intent of the law is to give everyone fair access and opportunities to public service. So I guess it's the better interpretation of the law, to have 120 minutes of TV ads and 90 minutes or 180 minutes worth of radio advertisements for a candidate, not per station, but per candidate.
Kasama ba dyan sa advertisements? Does that include also TV appearances, interviews, for example? Is that considered an advertisement?
Yes, but it should be, there should always be a label that states that it was paid for by, or it should abide always by the law as set, or the rules as set by the COMELEC.
But for example, if we're going to interview or feature a certain candidate, like what the big networks are doing, they're having senatorial debates, and they're also featuring prominent politicians from political dynasties, for example, as a news feature. Would you interpret that as also falling under the advertisement limitation, or is that not counted?
If it's a news feature, if it's a regular news feature, like a normal news program, I don't think it will count as an advertisement. But if it's outside the realm of the normal course of the program, it will always be counted as an advertisement.
So if it is paid,
Yes.
so if it's a paid
Yes.
advertisement.
Yes.
Sean, you wanted
I
to
would
add
like to
something?
just to add, all candidates are given the right to reply. If there is a given issue, and actually the news centers can actually interview them, but after that, after they are given the right to reply, they have to report to COMELEC what actually happened.
But will that be deducted, for example,
No,
from
it's
the...
not included.
Okay. So they can be interviewed by different stations, but as for the paid advertisements, that's when the clock starts running. So
Yes,
100,
yes,
120 minutes and all of that. If we limit that interpretation, the 120 minutes all stations or 180 minutes all radio stations, hindi ba parang malulugi naman yung mga networks dyan? Because it's still an advertisement. So I would think that if you accumulate that to include all the networks, will that have an effect on the sales? Would you know of that kind of effect?
Well, for the 2010 elections, if my memory serves me right, there was a study conducted that almost 20% of the profits of the particular TV stations were from the campaign ads.
20%?
Yes,
of the
almost
profits?
20%.
Malaki, no? So,
Yes. So
would
it
be-
will definitely have an impact on the profits of the networks. But what we're after here is to show the intent of the law. And that is to minimize the election spending. We are not actually here to say that, yes, networks will have lower profits, but we are here to say that it is a better interpretation because it will actually embody what is in the Constitution, and that is to minimize the election spending.
to minimize election expenditures and also
Yes.
level the playing field.
Yes.
Because not all candidates can afford to spend. First of all, you have to produce a TV commercial. You have
Yes.
to pay talent. You need the script, yes, director, editor, etc. And how much does that cost already by now? Diba? Even if you have all these new technologies.
And
it's
as
expensive.
extreme as it may seem, a wealthier candidate can actually, if it's 120 minutes per station, a wealthier candidate can actually place ads in different networks, even Cartoon Network, for example.
Yes,
They-
even
they-
the
yeah,
Yes,
they
and it will not be counted. You have a 120-minute allocation for that
Yes,
network
yes,
lang.
yes.
Oo, so it's unfair.
And if you'll recall, in the 2010 elections, there were particular ads where party lists were endorsing a particular candidate.
Right.
Before it was counted in favor of the party list group. Now it will be counted in favor of the candidate which is being endorsed.
Yes.
So that's the difference now.
Okay, so what other paraphernalia do candidates are also regulated in this campaign period, Sean?
I think the newspaper, all candidates should actually abide to this common resolution, which states that for broadsheet, their candidates are only given 1/4 sheet, only the 1/4 sheet size for their advertisements. Now for tabloids, they're given the 1/2 of the paper of that tabloid for that tabloid sheet.
Pero how many, I mean, can you go out every week on newspaper with that size lang? Or is there also a limitation on the frequency of how many times can you appear on
They're
newspaper?
actually given only 3 times a week in order to advertise. So maximum of 3 times a week. And for all candidates, they're actually given by the Comlec space, which actually gonna be released for the first week of the start of the campaign period, the 5th week and the 8th week. So all candidates are given the opportunity equally to advertise their campaigns there.
Okay, there's one frequent violation that I noticed when I went home to Bataan. It's a common poster area. Nobody seems to observe that. I mean, people put up election paraphernalia in their homes, for example, or in their tricycles, in their cars. Is that counted? Is that regulated by the COMELEC where you can put where the places where you can put a poster, for example?
So for private vehicles like tricycles, if you own one, for cars, since it's a private vehicle, the candidate should only ask the consent of the owner of that private vehicle. Now, if it's a common poster area, they should abide to the rule, which is the size, which is given by the Commonwealth Resolution, which is actually for poster, it's a 2x3.
2 by 3 feet.
2 by 3 feet. Now, if it's a flyer, it's only 8 by 5 by 11 inches.
Okay, so that's a short bond paper
Yes.
na pwedeng flyer. Tapos you still have the 3 peso
Yes.
cap that
Limit.
we discussed last week. Pero I just noticed that there's, how about endorsements, for example? Have you ever, figured out whether endorsements, because I see that naman in taxi cabs at the back, a particular senatorial candidate is endorsing tablets or even meats, for example. I mean, I know it's a commercial endorsement, but still, it makes voters familiar with that particular candidate. Was that a violation?
If you could recall the last 2010 elections, most candidates are actually advertising certain products. They're actually endorsers.
Artista na rin sila.
Yes, but during that time, it's not included as part of it's not prohibited.
It's not prohibited.
But now, for this 2013 election, it is already prohibited by the Commonwealth Resolution, which actually states that all candidates, if they're actually part of the show, they should actually quit. And if they're endorsing a product, all billboards regarding that product should actually be removed.
During the campaign period.
Yes.
Because they can put it up again after whether they win or lose.
Yes.
They can continue the endorsement. I just think that it's also unfair because not all candidates are asked to endorse a particular product, diba? Pero you still see that. You see them in the supermarket, for example. So it's like campaigning inside the marketplace, and it's just something that I never knew. Now meron na palang prohibition,
Yes.
so it's no longer allowed for the duration.
Because the endorsement is being used to circumvent the law, which is to have a 2x8 feet or the 120 minutes. Because if you're an endorser, it is not considered as campaign ad, but just a commercial advertisement. So it's circumventing the law. And with the new Commonwealth Resolution, we want again to bring back the intent of the law, which is to have a fair election.
Fair elections. So, meron pang isa na notice ko. I don't know in Manila if it's frequent. Yung may jingle sila, tapos it's a private car going around with a really big poster of a candidate. How about that? Is that regulated by the COMELEC? Is there a prohibition when it comes to jingles, for example? Nagro-roving around the subdivisions, and it's a jeep, and then there's a huge tarpaulin, and tapos merong a speaker with a jingle, going on
The
and on.
Commonwealth Resolution provides that if a candidate actually wants other kinds of advertising or campaign paraphernalias, they have to actually ask the permission of the Commonwealth. They have to give what kind of action or thing that they are activity that they're going to do, and the Commonwealth has to approve it before it's actually given the chance to be used.
Wow, that's very, very interesting. Actually, medyo subdued nga din yung campaigning ngayon in the provinces, I would think. People are starting to follow the rules when it comes to campaigning. Except for the poster area, ha. Minsan talagang violation. I think we should also regulate how many times can you put your face on the
Yes.
poster area. Kasi unfair, the other candidates don't have space. It's just one face of one candidate. Eh, tapos you have to resort to, making topple over that particular face. And, that's where fights start. Kasi parang, why are you covering up the face of my candidate, etc. So maybe we should also regulate how many times can you put in the common poster area, because etiquette dictates that you
Yes.
can only post once. So as to
I think I think the last time we actually talked with the Comelec person, that that Comelec individual actually stated that the Comelec space or the Comelec common poster area, it should be divided equally to all the candidates.
okay.
So if there are 13 candidates, they have to actually divide that space, even though it's smaller smaller than the prescribed by the Comelec resolution. So the Comelec resolution states that it's 2 by 3. Now, if the 2 by 3 size does not actually give them equal opportunity, it should be lower.
Okay, that's very good. And it's very good to hear that if there's any gimmickry involved, they need the permission of the Comelec
Yeah,
before
yes.
they resort to giving away iPads or
Yeah.
making jingles and everything. Thank you very much, Lente, for providing us with this top election offenses. Are there other things about Facebook, for example? Is there a regulation?
so,
Pao, yeah.
Regarding Facebook or the social media, there isn't actually anything, any law or rules as
No rules.
laid down, because it's kind of hard to monitor, because for example in Facebook, it's actually a free space.
But should we monitor that in the future, in the 2016
I
elections?
think it should really be monitored in the
And
in the
Lente
future.
will help Comelec regulate Facebook and social media as well after the 2013 election. So please come back again next week for Lente will be here every week to educate us about election offenses and also campaign finance. I understand that's what you're going to monitor this 2013 elections. So more on Lente. Thank you very much, Chelsea, Sean, and Pao for guesting right here on Talk to Harry. This has been your host, Sarah Sugitan. Talk to Harry will come again next Monday, so join us again right here on